It started on a crisp Saturday morning. I had been hauling supplies to my lake cabin, preparing for a weekend getaway with my family. The sun was just peeking over the horizon, casting golden streaks across the water, and the air smelled like pine and fresh earth. Everything felt serene, until my phone buzzed with an alert that made my blood run cold. The HOA had called 911. Again. This time, it was because they thought they could claim my provisions for themselves. Apparently, some neighbors had seen me unloading crates of food, water, and equipment and had reported it as unauthorized use of community property. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh, except the people at the other end of the call sounded deadly serious. By the time I arrived at the cabin, a patrol car from the county sheriff had pulled up. The officer seemed uncertain, flipping through his notes, clearly unsure what he had been sent to enforce. I greeted him calmly, letting my presence alone convey that this was my territory and my rules. "I'm here to help," he said. "But the HOA reported you." I smiled politely. "I appreciate your concern. Let me clarify. These are my supplies on my land, for my family. Everything here is legal, documented, and entirely under my ownership." He nodded, relief flickering across his face. "I see. But the HOA?" I interrupted gently, guiding him to the paperwork I kept in a waterproof binder. Deeds, property surveys, receipts for the provisions, everything clearly marked, everything undeniable. As he flipped through the pages, his initial suspicion melted into awe. It became painfully clear that the HOA had overstepped in the most audacious way imaginable. Just as I finished explaining, a group of HOA members arrived, their faces flushed with anger and embarrassment. They assumed they could intimidate me, that a few phone calls and a bluster of authority would make me surrender what was mine. Instead, they were met with patience, proof, and calm control, the trifecta that made them realize how outmatched they truly were. "I see," one of them finally muttered, staring at the documents. You own all of this?" "Yes," I replied evenly. "And any attempt to seize my property without my consent would be considered theft and trespassing." "You've been warned," they muttered among themselves, frustration boiling over, but there was nothing they could do. The sheriff, now fully on my side, made sure they understood the seriousness of the situation. One wrong move and they would not just face fines, they could face criminal charges. The encounter ended with the HOA retreating, their egos bruised, and me securing my cabin with everything intact. As I carried the last of my provisions inside, I reflected on the power of preparedness. Knowledge of your rights, proper documentation, and calm authority can defuse even the most brazen attempts at intimidation. That weekend, my family enjoyed a peaceful retreat, and the lake cabin became a sanctuary untouched by HOA overreach. And somewhere back in town, the HOA members were learning an expensive lesson. Property rights are not suggestions, and underestimating the people who protect them is a costly mistake. By nightfall, the lake mirrored the stars above, serene and undisturbed. The supplies were safe, the cabin secure, and I knew one thing for certain. Any future attempts by the HOA to overreach would be met with the same quiet, unassailable authority. Sometimes victory doesn't require confrontation. It just requires proof, patience, and the knowledge that you are completely untouchable when you know your rights.